Good day. This video is going to be about the power of music, and the significance of music, and why I think it's very important for people who are, seeking after spiritual enlightenment and transcendence. It's a fixture of all our lives. Very, very, uh, very important fixture of most people's lives, and it certainly had its function. It certainly had its function in religious, in the formation and maintenance of religions, along with art, visual art, and music. The world of religions would be unthinkable without music, with the exception of Islam, perhaps, which is rather orthodox, quite disparaging about music and musicians among certain orthodox interpretations. But Christianity, Judaism, and Hinduism, for example, wouldn't be what they are without music, and music is an integral part of their religious traditions. The secrets of music are really quite simple. I mean, I've been playing music for 40 years, and it's been an absolute, important part, unmissable part of my own personal spiritual path and spiritual growth, quote unquote. I always put inverted commas there, because in the end you don't actually go anywhere. But that's the other videos I talk about that. But music can help to help you transcend your mundane experience, as it were. It elevates the soul, as it were. What that means is your vibration is your sense of, if you're down in the dumps, and somehow it raises the energy, the kundalini, the shakti, the life force, and you're able to commune with the higher consciousness. There's no higher consciousness; it's just consciousness at a higher octave. And this is an interesting thing, because everything I find discovered about music and its correlation with spirituality comes from the simple performance of one note. And from one note come many notes. One note comes a second note, then another note, and you build it from there. A journey of 1,000 steps begins with one step. A symphony of 1,000 notes begins with one note, and that one note is crucial. If you learn an instrument, the most important thing for a musician is to get, or a singer, and I include singers and musicians, is to get a beautiful sound, a beautiful tone. And the only way you can really do that is by playing long notes, particularly on a wind instrument, even the violin. I play the violin, so getting a beautiful sound which mimics the human voice. That's what most musicians seem to be doing, the advanced ones. Any great musician will tell you his goal is to mimic the human voice, and that's summum bonum for musicians. So, the Om, which is central here, the Om is the tone, the vibration of life, the vibration of the universe. In the beginning was the Word was God, and the Word was God. What the word means is the vibration, the sound. From the sound came vibration, came heat, and then came light. And from light, everything was formed. And that's, quite a powerful esoteric metaphor. What you're doing when you're playing one note, it's called playing long notes, is you're chanting Om. So you chant Om, and you're really listening to that sound, like you're listening to the sound Om, and you're feeling it vibrate your body. And really, this is where the miracle happens, when you put your attention in the note you're playing and completely immerse yourself in it. Your attention goes into that note, and for a moment, you're not in your body, but your attention is not in your, fixated on your body, but on something intangible, something ethereal, and that's the mystery, the magic of music. When you play music, and the other sounds thing is listening to music, which I'll talk about a little bit later. The power of listening to music, and the power of listening in general. And what Om represents, I mean, Om is central, and you can see that in Indian music. You have the drone in the background, the tan, usually played by a stringed instrument called the tanpura, which is that constant sound, this sound background. And the musicians will soloists will solo, they're making peaks and troughs and interesting patterns and contrasts beautifully with that background. And what it represents is the supreme reality, which is unchanging and constant. So when you're hearing that drone, that's what it's telling you. And the sound, the melody, is the person, is the soul moving up and down through their various experiences, and you're expressing different moods, rasas. And the same principle is there in Western music. In fact, every song, every popular song you hear begins at the root note, the root center, the tonal center. And it modulates to different centers, to different tonal centers. And that creates interest, contrast for the ear, for the listener. But it always returns home. So. Anyway, that's and that Om really gives you a boost. You know, when you play one note, you can just suddenly there's an explosion and a load of notes come. It's almost like you're not playing; something else is playing through you. It's marvelous music. It's better than sex, actually. I came to the conclusion it's like making love without any of the unfortunate side effects that can happen from having sexual contact. Anyway, that's another thing. But this is the idea of music, and Western music capitalizes on the tonal movement and modulation to create interest. And an interesting insight I had was that, Western harmony is completely unique invention. And it all came from this, primitive, let's say, early church music and folk music has the drone in almost all the musical traditions, East and West. Plain song and Gregorian chant, you'll always hear that drone in the background. What you're hearing is the word of God that is constant, the supreme reality that never changes, the unchanging reality, and it represents God. And they did away with that and just implied that tonal center by implying a tonal center, a piece of music, and then creating modulation, which represented, I came to the insight, it represents the diaspora of the Jewish people, quite possibly, going from one country to the other till they return home. And, Judaism and Christianity, they are responsible for church harmony and classical music in their entirety. And, the old traditions of music, folk traditions tend to maintain this. I mean, Celtic music has its drone, Scandinavian music, all the folk music traditions of Slavic music of the whole world contains this drone, and that's really what the significance of the drone is. And the word, what is that? I mean, as I said, there's three meanings. You could say, from a theological point of view, it's the word of God, what God says. You've got the word, which is the vibration, which I told you, the sound of creation, maintenance and destruction, because it rises like a sine wave and then dies off. Creation leaving silence, and so the background is silence. When you listen to music is couched in silence, like the sun is in the sky. The sky represents the background, and that's what the silence is, the background. So the musical note will die off, rise. Dies off into the background silence. So that's what it's trying to remind you of, that the silence is the background, the drone. What you're doing, in fact, when you're listening to music, it's a good idea to listen Anyway, listen, every sound that you're hearing is this vibration. Every sound, the sound of the clattering of plates, whatever, you know, the sound of birds in the background, or the tram passing by, cars, everything is Om, is this sound. And when you're listening to music, your habitual focus, your fixation on the visual prefrontal cortex, visual sense, is temporarily relaxed, and the attention goes back to the hindbrain and connects with the heart, the spiritual heart, and you get this expansion of consciousness. So you're listening when you fall back behind the ears, in fact, because you're in the ears, you're listening. And in fact, when you listen and you get this oceanic experience, you become very relaxed. You go into a theta state, or delta, even, you know, if you're listening to beautiful music and relaxing music, raga or classical music, or any kind of music that makes you, is just slow and peaceful, transcendental. You come into the transcendental state, a theta state, delta state. And in that, you can become aware of your body. Suddenly you realize you're listening there as well. You're listening to the sound of your body. You're listening to the vibration of the life force in your body, which is also Om. Call it the soundless sound. So you're listening to when you fall back into the listening, you start listening, you hear the sounds, you become aware of your sounds, which you wouldn't in your environment, which you might not really do because you're so focused on objects, visual objects. And the sound of your body, in fact, which you're listening to your body. That's what why they call it listening to your body, to one's body. In fact, even eating food is listening. You're listening to a vibration of different notes. You know, wine tasting. Wine is described in musical terms as well. Different notes. This wine has a certain note. Comparison with music. And you're hearing a symphony of sound. You're listening to the vibration of these different chemicals on your tongue. So that's also a good way to maintain your weight, because when you're listening with all your attention in your mouth and you're eating, you're really tasting your food. The body has a natural cut-off mechanism for when you get too full, because you're completely enjoying it, which means you're completely extracting all the prana sparks from that food. And the body is completely attuned to the source, which knows exactly what to do and how much is enough. So I think those are some interesting insights. Anyway, this is my instrumentarium, and you can see, I don't know if I can do that. No, I can't. Let's have a look. I can't switch there's my saxophone. Oops. I play 3 saxophones, tenor, soprano, and alto. There's my guitar, electric guitar. Oops. Electric guitar. You've got the keyboard in the background, and you've got the violin. There we go. That's the most recent instrument. And if you are thinking of taking up a musical instrument, I highly recommend it. The method I use to learn every instrument is very simple. If you can sing it, you can play it. So if you can sing or whistle anything, you can play it on your instrument, and that's a rule of thumb. And it's much easier. You can develop your ears. You can learn how to read music. It's not a big deal, obviously. The path, the journey of a symphony of 1,000 notes begins with one note. You sing the note. Now that's how I did it, and you have to play scales, obviously. You have to learn patterns. And so on and so forth. Once you've done that, and you've got your pentatonic scale. You can play along with anything, your favourite songs. If you learn the major scale, the minor scale, and the pentatonic scale, you're on your way. And the quickest, you can do it with any instrument. You can do it with the piano. Do da do dee do da do. Try it, and it's more fun. It's quite, it's child's play. And it should be child's play. I mean, I'm self-taught. I took some music lessons. I had a great guitar teacher, and a saxophone teacher. I never had any saxophone lessons. I taught myself saxophone and all wind instruments, basically, much of a muchness. The technique is pretty similar for most of them, and flute just happens to be the most available and so on. I can't really play on my saxophone because of my neighbor. He'll complain, but I've mastered all these instruments in the same way, and the same simplicity of being represented by the Om. And it's the same thing with Om. If you chant Om, you completely listen with all your being to that sound, and that Om mantra contains all mantras. And if you look at the religions, the major religions of the world, apart from even Christianity, Latin, Latin chants, but Hebrew, Arabic, Sanskrit, it's more about the recitation and the vibration of the syllables of the words, which have the effect on the various energy centers and the consciousness of the listener, of the individual, of the practitioner. Not so much the meaning, although you can think about the meaning, but you can listen to Hebrew prayers or Muslim prayers or Sanskrit mantras and not know what they're saying. And it's just the same as listening to music. Your music, very often, what is music? You don't know what it is, what's being said, unless lyrics are being said. And most people, many singers don't enunciate enunciate the lyrics very clearly. So it can be quite a struggle just trying to figure out what they're saying. By the time you're trying to figure out what they're saying, you've lost your position in the music. You're not listening to the music. So just listening and listening to the vibration. That's one way. I mean, it's painting. Most music, you're a painter with sound. And well, that's my little sort of discourse on music. Om, Nada Brahma, Shabd Yoga. Most advanced musicians know these secrets also intuitively. They discover the same thing. I hope that's inspirational for you. And Om Shalom, Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Salam Alaikum, Namaste.